That takes us to item D4, which is recommend approval to award and execute a 24-month requirement supply contract with Mosaic Corp Nutrition LLC for the purpose of fluorosilicic acid, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly or not, for the Austin Water Utility in an amount not to exceed $1,110,450, with two 12-month extension options in amounts not to exceed $555,225 per extension option, for a total contract amount not to exceed $2,220,900. Let's take the citizen communication on this. We have Ray Naylor Yulnick. Close enough.
Good evening, Commission members. 2 years ago, KITV conducted a survey in which 49% of Austinites called water fluoridation a waste of money. Now, that's no fringe group. That's half the city, substantially. So, since the survey was expressed strictly in terms of money considerations and not health or science or anything like that, I'll stick to the economics of it. Why do half of Austinites consider fluoridation a waste of money? Well, good question. Could it be because it obviously doesn't work for its stated purpose, preventing tooth decay? There's just as much tooth decay as ever among the underserved segments of the population, and if you check around, as the City Council has not bothered to do, you'll soon see. Or could it be that people know that we're already saturated with fluoride from our environment, from toothpaste, our processed foods, nonstick cookware, pharmaceuticals, and so on, and people just don't see a reason to spend millions of dollars on more. Whatever their concern, it's certainly worth serious consideration. Now, for over 5 years, concerned citizens here have been regularly speaking before the City Council in an effort to educate them about the downside of water fluoridation. The present council has adamantly refused to listen. Come November, Austin city government will have a whole new look, and at least part of the reason for that hard-won change in government was the present and recent council's unwillingness to listen to ordinary citizens, to the concerns of everyday citizens as opposed to political insiders. The new city council may have different ideas about the wasteful fluoridation system that was set up here 40 plus years ago and positioned as an entitlement. So I have two proposals here, and the first one is table item D4 until next month. The citizen traditionally signs this contract in March anyway. And since you will next meet on March 12th and regular city council meetings are scheduled for the 20th and 27th, that allows plenty of time for council action. And meantime, I do have some educational materials and things that I could present to some of you to just have you thinking about this situation more. And understand why wisdom dictates an end to the expenditure of millions of dollars for a toxic chemical, which provides no benefit. Second, if you must, you are an advisory commission and you're not required to advise the city council to do something that's not in the public interest. Second, if you must recommend a contract, limit it to a one-year contract. At a time when the future of fluoridation is in doubt, this is the most prudent way to succeed, and thank you for your time. Now, do I have a little more time, as if I had my husband's also, because I have something on a totally different subject and charter? May I continue, or shall I sit down?
Is it on this item D4?
It's on item D4. It's a little bit different. I wish that I had the ability to project slides, but we are constantly being told that this chemical the city is buying is the same thing that's found naturally in the water, and that they're just adjusting upwards something which is already there. Well, I have found a company that provides both the natural fluoride, which is called calcium fluoride, it's a reagent, and fluorosilicic acid, such as we use. And I have the product sheets, they're called MSDS sheets, comparing these two products, and anybody can look and see with their own eyes that this is not the same product, and that the artificial one, the one we buy, is rated much more poisonous, much more toxic. I have one hard copy of each of those here. I could leave them for the record. And also that in the Austin Water Utilities tank, the storage tank, they've actually given it an even higher rating for danger hazard. And I'll conclude with that. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Nadler. Commissioner Clark, you had questions on this item?
Yes, do I need to move this?
It'll pick it.
Okay. I don't know who the appropriate staff member is to inquire. All right, thanks. I appreciate some answers. I did do a little reading into some research on the fluoride issue, and I would come at this assuming that the city is acting in the best interest of its citizens. So I'm just trying to understand that process y'all use to do this, even though you do it every year. I understand this contract is for fluorosilicic acid from a crop nutrition company. It says, I assume this is a byproduct of fertilizer production. So is this pharmaceutical grade fluorosilicic acid or sort of industrial grade?
Do I have to push a button?
No, you're good.
Okay, sorry. I'm Jane Burazer. I'm the Assistant Director of the Treatment Program. For the first part of your question, we have been fluoridating the water in Austin since 1973, I believe it is. In December 2011, the City Council passed a resolution requiring that we continue to feed the fluoride, and that was based on recommendations from the Health and Human Services Department. I do have a copy of that resolution here if you would like to see it. So essentially under the council resolution, we are required to fluoridate. In the drinking water industry, the chemicals we feed must all meet NSF 60 requirements, which is not necessarily pharmaceutical grade, but it has a purity level that's expected that it has to meet, and NSF does the testing of the chemicals.
Okay. Do you know if this batch is tested for arsenic?
The chemicals are tested for, we don't test each batch
Yeah.
that comes in for arsenic, but they are tested for arsenic.
Because my understanding was that the NSF standards do allow for some concentration of arsenic, which the EPA says you shouldn't have in drinking water.
The difference is going to be the levels. I would have to pull the NSF data on that, which I do have and I can forward to you. And we can compare that against the EPA levels for drinking water.
Okay. So from the utilities perspective, you're just fulfilling a council resolution?
Yes.
Okay. So I find this all very interesting. One of the most interesting things I found was originally the idea was, well, it was all for tooth decay, right?
Right.
To prevent tooth decay. The idea was you put it in the water, and when you drink it, it strengthens your teeth. The more recent research shows that the activation of fluoride is actually topical, which is why it's a toothpaste. So I have some concerns that we're putting something that's basically a medical treatment for a medical condition of tooth decay into the drinking water for everyone. without any control over the dosage of that medicine, if you will. Because babies who are drinking infant formula are consuming a much higher proportion of water for their body weight. Are they getting too much fluoride? I think there are a lot of questions about the effectiveness and the risks, and I think if tooth decay is the big problem, there are better ways to address it than putting fluoride in the drinking water. But I appreciate your perspective on this.
I have a few questions to follow up. Are there any safety guidelines that that the utility is guided by when adding fluoride into the water?
Yes, we follow the, okay, first you have EPA has a primary and secondary maximum contaminant levels. The primary maximum contaminant level is 4 parts per million, the secondary is 2 parts per million. But we follow the CDC guidelines, which is Center for Disease Control. They recently lowered their levels, where it used to be like 0.7 to 1.2, I think it is. It's now 0.7 to 1. We're in a warmer climate. The expectation is people would drink more, so we stay closer to the lower end of it. Our fluoride is naturally occurring at about 0.25 parts per million, and we raise it to the 0.7 level.
Commissioners, any other questions? We have a motion on this item.
I move to approve item D4, or recommend item D4.
Do we have a second on the motion?
I'll make motion.
Seconded by Commissioner Lee. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Show Commissioners Moriarty, Lee, Castleberry, Fishbeck, Gray, and O'Hare, excuse me, voting yea. Are there any nays? Commissioner Clark voting nay. And no abstentions. Thank you.